Hello, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Tiffany Para, host of the Girl Powerhouse on Mupo TV. Now, today we are going to go ahead and we are celebrating the women around the world. We here are celebrating the girl powerhouses that are making those changes, that are really inspiring us to just step into our greatness. So today I have an amazing young woman that is going to be joining me, and we are going to be talking about something that's a little outside of the box, but it is very, very awesome and something that's going to help to get you to the other side. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring my guest on in. Hello, DeVika Lyles. How are you today?
I am great, Tiffany. Thank you so much. I'm DeVika Lyles, and I am just so glad to be here. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, my goodness. And I am just so excited to just have this conversation with you, DeVika. Now, everyone, let me just tell you a little bit about DeVika. Now, DeVika is a sexologist. As you can see here, she is also an instructional designer and a coach. Now, when you hear sexologist, you're like, oh, right? But we're going to actually get into it. We're going to talk a little bit about what sexology is and how DeVika is able to help people to really flourish in their relationships by just tuning in and tapping in. So, DeVika,
Sure.
please tell us what exactly is sexology?
It's a really fun name for people who study sex and sexology. We are in all areas, and most people know us as clinical sexologists, and those are the people who people go to when they have like problems and erectile dysfunction, and those are the people who, like doctors, can prescribe medicine, can prescribe treatment. And then there are just varying people that are not able to do that, but we still study sex and sexology. And some people are sexuality educators, some people are lactose coaches, when they teach people how to latch on. And I am a transformative sexologist, and I bring transformative education to sexology to support people in education and doing whatever they need to do to break up whatever conversations they have around sex and sexology so they can have delicious lives.
Wow. Now tell me, have you always been into this subject? Has it always been something that has been an interest to you? I mean, when you think back to in high school, we'll go back to high school.
Yeah, I can go back further than that.
Okay, let's go back even further.
I think that I've wanted to do this my whole life. I think that when I started asking about where babies come from, my parents didn't just give me like an off the wall answer. They actually gave me a book. And I started to read and ask questions. And then I'd go to slumber parties, and little girls would have slumber parties, and they'd have information. And I'd give them the right information until I stopped getting invited to slumber parties. And I remember. And then I remember thinking, oh, this is super important to people, but I have to be old. Right, Tiffany, because I was like 12 at the time, and I was like, I have to be old because people won't listen to me. So I had to be in my 40s because for 12, 40 was really old. So then I decided stuff like I wanted to be a vet, but in the background, I always wanted to be a sexologist. And I thought about radio for a while. My dad is in radio, but when I went to college, this is all I've ever studied. This is all I've ever really been passionate about. And everything that I've done has come back to helping people with their bodies, helping people with how they love, helping people have deliciously orgasmic lives. That's like my life's work.
Oh, I
So
love
ever.
it. Oh,
Yes,
my
so forever.
goodness. So when you think about it, like who would be your ideal client for?
Well, and it's interesting because a lot of people are like, oh, well, you want to help people with problems. No, I respectfully, to come from the space of that you have a problem means I have to fix something. And that for me is not what I want, especially for Black and brown people, and especially for the LGBTQ community that I really help. I don't want anyone to ever think that they are broken or that they need fixing. We have a lot of enough of that. And so what I want is to help people who have goals, who have like, hey, I want to get over here. Like I'm the personal trainer of sex and sexology. Like I want a healthy sex life. I want more communication. That is not a problem. That's actually a natural want and a natural desire. And I help people fulfill on that. So on the personal side, anyone who is a sex positive parent that maybe their kid just came out as trans, or maybe they don't even know how to talk to their kids, whoever they are, they don't know how to talk to their kids about sex. Couples who are interested in more, not just couples, but people in relationships who want intimacy. And also just people who really want to connect and who have a desire to grow their relationships. Right now, I'm in a conversation about who should pay. So I also take on like traditional and non-traditional conversations. So on the personal side, there's coaching, there's education. On the corporate side, who would really be an ideal client for me? Somebody who wants to do diversity and equity inclusion conversations. How to actually have people who are diverse feel seen, heard, and welcome as a contributing force in their workforce. And so those are the two places I would like to work on. And then for me personally, a client who wants to work with sexologists, because we are our own industry and we were just talking about this, we need marketers, we need people to do logos, we need people to do our back office. And so if somebody wants to get in with that industry, I would love to partner with them so that my folks have support, because we as an industry, we don't get that much support.
Yeah. What has been the most difficult or the most challenging in growing your business so far?
Probably what I just said is that we don't get a lot of support. People hear about us and they, delete us from their email list, or they, report us, or they report my account, or they report my TikTok. They like, or if I try to process certain things through certain end vendors, they're like, is this pornographic? And so it's just it's people not understanding that the professionalism that a sexologist has. That's probably the most challenging. And then, sounding like I'm distancing myself from my fellow sex workers. No, they provide a service as well. We just provide a different service. And then when people conflate that, then nobody wins. And I think that's the most challenging is that there's not actually a really clear listening or a clear understanding of what we are and what we do.
Yeah. And see, and that's when I said that, and I think when I first saw you, online,
yeah,
like, what is this? And that was one of the first things that came to mind was pornography. But that's the closed-mindedness, right? That's how we, as we grow up, especially I think our generation, because our parents were so closed-minded to it. You couldn't mention these things in the household at all. I mean, I remember, having my mother tell me, you got to turn that down when Erotic City from Prince came on. You can't listen to that.
Wow.
So,
well, and not only in the generation, but there's also cultural distinctions. There's also economic distinctions. There's a lot of places and spaces where people are cut off from just a very natural conversation about what it is that we do. And because the area that we take is very taboo, people assume that what I do all day is talk about porn or something. And for me, I'm like, oh, that sounds way more interesting than what I actually do. That sounds great, but that's not what I actually. It's wonderful, but that's not actually. I probably talk about that like once every 2 or 3 weeks, but no. And so to get people to hear that difference and to say, oh, wait, there's more to it than what, like, the pornography or the something bad or, the something weird. And so to help with that, I've created 7 sexological conversations where I really map out the 7 areas of sex and sexology that people are actively talking about,
Okay.
ongoingly talking about, but don't associate weirdly enough with my field. And yet they talk about it. A couple of examples would be abortion laws. That is definitely a sexological conversation. But we separate it from, let's have healthy conversations around it. Gender identity, that is definitely a sexological conversation. We have a lot of people who have a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts, but not a lot of education and not a lot of sexological background to support the conversations that they're having. So people are having sexological conversations. They think it's just, if I'm not talking about sex, like the act of sex, I'm not actually having a sexological conversation. And where I come in is I actually bridge the gap between that thought process.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, we're going to go ahead and cut to a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back and talk about the benefits that people get from working with you. So we'll be right back.
Okay.
And we are back. This is Tiffany Parr with Girl Powerhouse on Mupo TV. That was a word from our sponsor, Mupo. And I tell you, every time I see that commercial, I just dance in my seat back here. So let's go ahead and talk about the benefits, DeVika, that clients get when they come into your programs and things like that. So give us some examples of some of those different benefits.
Sure. I was like, when I was picking it apart, I'm like, I don't know that they're going to, like, some of these things are so good. They sound too good to be true. So one that I had a really long time ago, she was actually going to be standing at the end of the month in court with a very abusive ex. And she was like, I can't dare to go and be part of this, but I have to fight for my kiddos. And I said, okay. So I mapped out a program and we were going to meet every week for that month. And I said, look, because I'm not a counselor, I'm a coach. I give them assignments. They go out and they do those assignments and they come back and then they let me know. Yeah. So it's the first one. She is anxiety ridden. She is just, I can't even think about it. I said, okay, through my coaching with her, I gave her an assignment. So she goes out, she does the assignment. She comes back and she's like, yeah, I think I'm good. I'm like, what do you mean you're good? She's like, no, I really got what I needed to get. And I'm okay. And I said, well, you have 2 more sessions. She says, no, I got what I came for and I'm good. And at the end of the month, she fought for her kids. She is now remarried. They have more kids. She is in a healthy relationship and she never looked back. Like never. I never heard. And this is one of the things I want to say. I know I've done my job when either I've never heard from my clients again, or I've never heard from them about that particular issue again, because I'm all about disappearing whatever is in the way. So if we have to keep talking about it, I'm going to look at myself, like, what am I not doing to create a clearing? Yeah. Another client just this past week, she did my recent Cuddle Sutra course, and I was telling you about the Cuddle Sutra, and we talk about, enthusiastic yeses and powerful declines. And she had been thinking, a lot of people, they think about saying, I don't think I'm getting paid enough. And when she did my course, she says, no, I'm just going to go ask because I know what I want. So she went in and she said, look, this is what I believe. This is what I think. And she made a powerful quest and powerfully stood there, and they come back and they're like, yeah, you're right. We have been underpaying you. And it turns out they had been underpaying her like $10,000.
Wow.
And so, right. And so, so that's just some of the things. I get people who have financial breakthroughs. I have people who get relationship breakthroughs. I get people who discovered that they are the source of love. I have one client, she hired me and she says, well, you know, my relationships have either been this or that, casual or like we're talking about marriage. And I've never gotten to really explore relationships and have them be deep and wonderful. And so she hired me, and we're like 3 weeks in. When she hired me, she was obsessed with this one man that was not interested in her. She was dating people that kind of were fillers, but not exactly anything that she was interested in. And just, we've now turned a corner about the fourth session. She has totally, I was like, you know, you haven't talked about that man in quite some time. So she's gotten rid of the one that wasn't for her. That, you know, she got rid of the ones that she wasn't interested in. And now she has had at least 2 really powerful dates with somebody who she is like falling madly in love with. And she's like, but it was so easy. And so that's some of the benefits that we can do together. It is on an individual basis. But if they're coachable, if they're willing to commit, and if they're willing to just look without anything being wrong, the miracles that we can create, I don't even know yet. I don't even know what my best client has gotten yet because we haven't created it yet.
Oh my goodness. I just love, I mean, I know you help men and women, and it's, but I love hearing about the women, right? Because we're talking about girl powerhouses, and you're giving them the keys to step into that girl powerhouse greatness, right? And just be able to get to that other side. And I just, oh my God, I just love it. So tell me, like, what advice would you give some of these, you know, girls, women that are out there and they're kind of struggling, trying to figure out what they want to do, you know, society and family, sometimes they put us inside of that box and they want us to think real traditional, right? And so, like, what's some advice that you can give them to just step outside the box and maybe take that non-traditional role by the horns and just go?
Well, first, and you know, you asked me this question, and the first thing you want to do is get complete with whatever you think is traditional. Like, you can't just say, I don't want that, and then create something else, because that's not how the universe works. If you are rejecting something, that something is going to be like, why don't you want me? Why don't you need me? Why don't you love me? And then all you're going to get is more of the same. So the first thing is to really get complete. It's not about, I don't want traditional. It's not about rejecting something. It's about really having a conversation and saying, look, this is what I want. I want someone who sees me as an equal. Traditional relationships don't see that. I want somebody who honors my dreams. And you just keep saying what you do want.
Yeah.
And then don't engage with traditional men. Now, traditional men who are pretending to be traditional, you got to learn the difference. They will do stuff like, well, I ain't going to open the door for you if you're not traditional. That's not a traditional man. A traditional, and that's not the kind of man that you want. That's a man that is angry about you not wanting what you want. I mean, what he wants. And so what you want is someone who can honor who you are without needing to diminish that you are wanting what you want. And so you have to start asking questions. Don't ask questions like, do you think a woman should pay 50-50? Because that's not going to actually give you the answer. The answers are things like, how do you feel about yourself when your partner doesn't need to rely on you? That you want to get at, like, what you're really asking. Because when you say traditional, we still want people to be respectful and chivalrous, and we still want people to open the doors and pull out our chairs, and we still want to be treated like ladies. What we don't want is our independence to be a threat to someone else. We don't want our autonomy to be a threat to someone else. So you have to really get to, when you say traditional, what do you want? And that's why I'm saying you can't just say, I don't want traditional. You have to look at, what do I want? And then go for that. Because you want to ask the questions. right? And what do you bring to the table? That's an interview question. That's not a relationship question. That's a question for employees. If he's asking you that question, just say, check. That I bring the check to the table. It's time for me to go now, because that conversation is not leading anywhere. So you really want to start focusing on what do you want. Yeah. It's not about what you don't want. It's about what do you want, and then letting that show up in your life.
Seeing that's the power of manifestation, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So we're going to cut to one more quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the defining moment when you stepped into your girl powerhouse greatness.
Awesome. Thank you.
So we'll be right back. We are back. This is Par with Girl Powerhouse on MUFO Entertainment, MUFO TV. And if you guys do not have it on your iOS or Android, definitely go to your app store, download MUFO Entertainment so you can stream this show and other shows, as well as many other shows that we have on MUFO with other individuals. So DeVika. All right, girl powerhouse. So when was that defining moment when you just stepped into that girl powerhouse greatness and just knew like, hey, I'm a badass and I got this?
Yeah, wow, right? Like, wow. There'd been tiny moments where like, oh, maybe I am a badass. No, I'm not. Maybe I'm a badass. No, I'm not. And there was this moment where I had been for years, I'd been a sexologist, and I knew, and I wanted to transform sexology so bad. And I kept going out into the world and going out to the world and going out. And I felt like I was running up against a wall. And then there were these people that I was working with inside of transformative education. And I was like, oh, I can't talk to them about sex. I could not, I didn't even let them know that I was a sexologist until one of them was like looking on my bookcase and like reading my books behind me. I was like, what are you doing? You're not supposed to know about that. And she was like all in my business. And then I started getting invited to do talks with these people. And I was like, wait. I can actually just talk to people who actually want to have these conversations. It's not that I'm not a badass. It's that where I had been putting my energy was not a match for my energy. And there's so many places and spaces where relationships where we will invest and pour and think that it's us and it's not us.
Right.
And as soon as I was in the middle of leading and I was working with these people and it said, Pooh. And I was like, oh, I'm a badass. And at first I was really afraid. I was like, well, maybe I'm only a badass in this area. No, what I got was, now that I knew what was missing, I could create that environment wherever I went. And so I had been out somewhere that wasn't a match. And once I got the ingredients of what it was to be a match, that's when I really started to say, okay, look, I'm a badass, to the point that degree that I'm sitting in front of, I did not put my degree anywhere visible. Yeah, I know I didn't share this with you. It has not been here for more than 7 months.
Wow.
This is the last 7, maybe 8 months.
Oh,
Definitely not the last year, where I said, and I graduated like, I don't know, 2020, what was it? 2003. So almost 20 years ago, I've been a sexologist, and that has not been on my wall because I didn't feel like I earned it until I
wow.
really got that moment. And that's when I took it off. I said, okay, fine. I'm a badass. I earned every minute of this. And
Yes.
sometimes it's not us.
That's right.
Sometimes it's the space
That's
we're
right.
speaking into.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and sometimes when you are going through this journey, some of the people that are kind of pushing and things like that are going to be some of the ones that are a little closer to you, right? Because they don't understand it. This is your journey. This is my journey, right? It's not their journey. So I think once you tap in and realize that as well, that really helps us to be able to push and continue to, to just go through it, right?
Yeah, well, and especially when they're pushing and you're like, I don't know. And like, they're like, then they would tell me, you're just spending your time in the wrong places. And I was like, but these are the people that was when I was still thinking, I need to work with people who need my help. No. Once I got that you have to be my partner in your success,
Yes.
that you have to be. If you want success, you have to be committed as committed to your success as I am. Because if I'm over there pulling it for you, it we're done. I'm not doing that. Not gonna happen. So that moment has happened in the last year, and it made all the difference.
Oh, wow. Wow. So when you think about people that have inspired you through your journey, who is a girl powerhouse that really stands out, that really just helped you to just step into this journey?
Oh, you changed the question because you said before, because the question did ask me a particular person. You changed the question. Wow. I don't know. I think, oh, now that you changed the question, I think it really was discovering myself. I know that sounds a little, however that sounds to people, but discovering me, because I could always see greatness in somebody else,
Mm,
but discovering the greatness in myself and allowing that to actually be something I say out loud,
mhm.
that's probably like, I could say Michelle Obama and I could say all these other people.
Yeah.
I could say my mom, I could say Whitney, like, but getting it in me, looking in the mirror and seeing me over there and getting me over here, that was probably like the moment that I got that. That's
Wow.
probably
Mm.
the person.
And see, this is why I had to change that question because I needed, someone else needed to hear that as well,
Yeah.
right? Oh my goodness. Just having, finding that self and having that unconditional love. I mean, through my journey, I did not have that self-worth. And once I found that self-worth, it was like all the toxic, all the everything started to fall away. And you just said it right there, like just believing in yourself and saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, I love me.
Yeah.
And I'm doing me. And that's that right there.
That's it. Because when they say, don't nobody love you better than you do, they mean that. And
Yeah.
that means if you're not loving yourself well, it don't get no better than that. So you really have to like start at home. And yeah, when you change that, I was like, oh, look at you, girl. Look at you being sneaky. I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, no, that moment when I looked in the mirror and said, that chick over there, she's all right. She's a badass. We could do
Yeah.
this. And then
Yeah.
I became a clearing for other people to do the same.
I love it. I love it. So look, this time goes so fast. I tell you, I wish we could just do it all over again. But now I'm going to say we're going to have to bring you back on the show because I have so many more questions that I need to have answers for. So we are going to definitely bring you back
Yeah.
probably within, we'll say, the next couple of episodes and continue to dig in this. But DeVika, how can our audience get in touch with you if they want to work with you? And just really, learn how to thrive in this area.
Okay, cool. So yeah, my bit.ly is down there at the bottom. Right now I'm doing a Cuddle Sutra in June. I invited you. They can also, I'm also on TikTok as TC4TS. I'm also on the Center for Transformative Sexology on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, they can also just pick up the phone and call and text me. My phone number is 720-588-3227. There's nothing wrong with the old-fashioned way, folks. 720-588-3227. And then my email address is dmarcellalyles.med@gmail.com. So
Awesome. Awesome. Well, everybody, you have every which way to contact and connect with DeVika so you too can, get help with some relationships. Maybe it's just tapping into yourself and just learning how to treat yourself well. This woman right here, she is going to get you in that right direction. So, DeVika, I want to just thank you so very much for joining us today on Girl Powerhouse. You are a true girl powerhouse. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. And everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. And all you girl powerhouses out there and all you up and coming girl powerhouses out there, I hope you got a lot of nuggets of wisdom through this because I know I did. And I will definitely be in your next class for that Cuddle Sutra. So you can bet on that. I'm registering today. So thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Okay.
thank you.
If I open up my eyes, I can see the sky.